Another good Friday morning here in Nigeria's capital, and we're glad to have you on NTA News 24 News at 10, broadcasting live from Abuja. I am Musbat and Wahab. We begin with the headlines. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu meets President Buhari on effects of COVID-19 on Lagos.
The second wave seemed to be a lot more infectious than the first one, and we're seeing positive rates of about 25, sometimes 30%.
Revenue generation. Nigeria Customs Service exceeds 2020 targets despite the COVID-19 pandemic. Federal government reverses adjustments in electricity tariff. Thanks a lot for staying tuned into the news. President Muhammadu Buhari has formally engaged Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State as the second wave of COVID-19 bites harder in the Center of Excellence. Their discussions also centered, among others, on efforts at rebuilding Lagos State after the mayhem and destruction of property that came in the wake of the last EndSARS protest in parts of the country. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
This is the second time in 2 months President Muhammadu Buhari will be engaging Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu on COVID-19 and the EndSARS protest, both of which started from Lagos State. On COVID-19, for instance, now in its second wave, Lagos remains the epicenter, recording in just the last 2 days nearly 1,500 confirmed cases of the global pandemic, a situation the governor described as worrisome.
On COVID, it's actually a very serious case. You know, we've all said it, we're the second wave, and incidentally, the second wave seemed to be a lot more infectious than the first one, and we're seeing positive rates of about 25, sometimes 30%. You know, so that is actually very disturbing, and we've seen, unfortunately, the amount of fatality, you know, around the country, even in Lagos. And so one of the things that we've realized that a lot more people require, you know, oxygen, you know, attention. They need breathing, additional oxygen breathing. So we have started building what we call oxygen tent, you know, oxygen facilities. We're building about 10 of such facilities. I think we've commissioned about 4 or 5, you know, of them, and we're also building proper oxygen plants, additional to oxygen plants in the state, so that we can meet, you know, the respiratory requirements. We understand the virus more than where we are 10 months ago or 8 months ago. So we know what the treatment should be.
On his efforts at rebuilding Lagos State after the devastation suffered in the wake of the EndSARS protests, the governor said already owners of small businesses affected have started receiving grants and soft loans to enable them come back together as soon as possible, while proper study is underway on devastated infrastructure and transportation facilities for necessary action. Discussions also centered on collaborative efforts Lagos State can enjoy with the federal government as regards the various economic opportunities that abound in the state.
Like you all know, Lagos is the commercial nerve center of the country, and so we need to, very early in the year, start up on economic programs and in activities that can improve not only our foreign direct investment, but also make Lagos, you know, an investor destination in the country. So there are a few things that are brought to his notice, a few projects that are brought to his notice, and how we can collaborate, you know, with the federal government, and also a few future projects that we're praying that he comes around, you know, and help us commissioning. He took very detailed notes. I was actually very, very, very happy. He took very detailed note and has given assurances that some of the points I've put up with him, I will be seeing some call-up or some follow-up, either through the Chief of Staff or through some of the agencies of the federal government.
Governor Sanwo-Olu said the security situation in Lagos State was also analyzed and the best way forward charted towards making the nation's commercial nerve center a lot more business-friendly. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Still coming from the State House, COVID-19 survivors says the level of communication and clear understanding of the impact of the coronavirus pandemic within the people will play a key role to stem down the second wave of the pandemic has been experienced now in the country. Governor Simon Bakola Long of Plateau State, a few weeks ago survived the virus, says the people, especially at the grassroots, should be well enlightened on the need to observe the non-medical protocol against the virus.
I've lost almost 5 people now. VIPs, that is VIPs for you. Talk less of even the ordinary person that is there. So in terms of approach, we need to be very, very vigilant because the states, we've said it several times, although it is difficult to talk about locking down states now. It's difficult to talk about locking down states, but the way and manner people are going, I don't see that maybe at the end of the day people may be talking about that. Because when you start talking about losing 5 people within 2 weeks, and then tomorrow you're talking about, like yesterday, I saw it, my state, 160, definitely there must be an approach towards enforcement.
The governor who spoke to the press after a visit to the vice president said state governors are working in collaboration with the federal government to put an end to banditry and kidnappings in some parts of the country. And away from that, the Nigeria Customs Service generated over 1.5 trillion naira in 2020 despite the pandemic. This surpasses the 1.380 trillion naira target and the sum of 1.342 trillion naira generated in 2019. These figures were released by the Controller General of Customs Service, Colonel Hamid Ali. The Customs Boss highlighted some of the reforms responsible for these achievements, to include strategic deployment of officers strictly using the standard operating procedure, strict enforcement of extant guidelines by the tariff and trade departments, automation of the custom process, among others. Now joining us to speak more on this via Zoom is the Public Relations Officer of the Nigeria Customs Service, Joseph Atta. Welcome to the News at 10, Mr. Joseph. Mr. Atta, can you hear me? Good morning to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Right. Now, this is quite a very big feat. Yeah, I can hear you now. This is a big feat for you, for the Nigeria Customs Service. Can you tell us other factors responsible for this, to have made this possible for you, unlike what we had previous years, and considering the fact that this happened in a pandemic year?
Yeah, as you have stated earlier, apart from the strategic deployment, strict adherence to extant law, you recall that 2020 was within the period of the partial land border closure. The land border closure meant that so many people had to reroute what they usually, in one way or the other, smuggle through the porous border. They had to reroute them through the seaport. Passing them through the seaport meant that we had the opportunity to examine and collect appropriate revenue, and that's where of the revenue figure we recorded for the year.
All right, now that some borders have been reopened, do you see this affecting the gains recorded by the customs?
It's not likely to affect it, given the fact that during the period of the lockdown or the closure, there were some diplomatic engagements at the higher political level, and at the operational level, we had a tripartite meeting between the customs administration of Nigeria, Niger, and Benin. which have given birth to the joint border patrol on both sides of the border, which means that going forward, apart from the fact that the borders are open, our ability to better police the border and secure our borders have been enhanced, because we have these joint border patrols on both sides of the border, and the leaders of these teams share intelligence, share experiences, and provide prohibition lists for each other. What you don't want to come into your country, give me the prohibition list. It is my duty to ensure that it does not get into yours. What I don't want, I give you my own prohibition list. You are to ensure that it does not come through your own borders into my own territory. So this were the product of the engagement that took place during the land border closure.
All right, Mr. Atta, certainly it's a good feat that you are generating more money for the country. But then, notwithstanding that, people are complaining about high cost of custom duty. Did you increase the custom duties to generate more money?
Well, no. What people don't appear to understand, or those who know, appear to embark on deliberate misinformation of the public, is that the Nigerian Customs Service does not operate any tariff in isolation with what is obtainable in the 15 member states of the ECOWAS. We operate the common external tariff, common to the 15 member states. So it's the same tariff in the ECOWAS region, apart from one or two cases where, as a nation, levies and taxes can be attached, to protect a local production. I mean, talking about things like vehicles, where the brand new vehicle attracts a levy of 35%. But generally, the tariff is the same in Nigeria and other 14 member states of the ECOWAS region.
All right, Mr. Joseph Atta, Public Relations Officer of the Nigeria Customs Service, we really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Now, Economic Commission for Africa officials speaks on Nigeria's influence on African continental free trade area. Let's join Kunle Adeyeye on the business desk for details.
With the AFCFTA, which has taken off, intra-African trade expected to grow by 33%, and Africa's total trade deficit is expected to be cut by half. Vera Songwe, the Executive Secretary of the Economic Commission for Africa, spoke about the economic potential for Africa and the pivotal role to be played by Nigeria and other African countries.
When we translate non-tariff barriers into monetary terms, it's about 14.3%. Nigeria, a huge powerhouse. DRC, a huge powerhouse. Because we are in two regional economic communities, trading is difficult. What the CFTA intends to achieve is to make it very easy, make it seamless for trade between Nigeria and DRC to happen, and for it to happen just like trade between Nigeria and Cote d'Ivoire or some other country inside ECOWAS. This is the strength.
And quickly to the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange to see how trading went on Thursday, January 7, 2021. With business news, I'm Kunle Adeyeye.
Thanks, Kunle. In order to promote constructive conclusion of dialogue between the federal government and the organized labor over electricity tariff, federal government has directed Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission to reverse the recent adjustments in electricity tariff until the end of January 2021. In a statement, Minister of Power Salim Maman says that the discussion or decision is to allow for the outcome of the resolutions from the federal government's Labor Ad Committee to be implemented together. Federal government says it is committed to creating a sustainable, growing and rules-based electricity market for the benefit of all Nigerians. This is the news at 10 on NTA News 24. Still ahead. Correspondence on prospects of a local vaccine against the pandemic. Stay with us. Another high number of infections again recorded in Nigeria as the Nigeria Center for Disease Control (NCDC) has announced 1,565 new cases of COVID-19 across the country. Out of the new infections, Lagos has again recorded the highest number with 807 cases, followed by the FCT with 236. Kaduna recorded 79 new cases, Oyo 57. Plateau 47, Rivers 37, and Katsina 35. Other states recording new cases are Edo and Sokoto with 30 new cases each, Delta 26, Kebbi 23, Ondo 20, Enugu 18, Abia and Ogun states recorded 17 new cases each, Benue 16, Bayelsa 15, Bauchi 14, Niger 13, Kano 10, Borno 6, Imo 5, Ekiti 4, Osun 2, and Jigawa 1. The total number of confirmed cases in Nigeria has now risen to 95,934, with 77,982 patients treated and discharged. Unfortunately, 1,330 people have now died from the virus in Nigeria. There is an alarming increase in COVID-19 infections among young people in Nigeria. PCF Chairman Boss Mustafa at the national briefing in Abuja says the increasing case, fatality rates and community spread should compel Nigerians to adhere to safety protocols. Mitairi Ikwen reports.
Nigeria's COVID-19 test positivity rate is now almost 10% and case fatality rate has increased to 3%. The PTF is worried with the trend but insists on adherence to all non-pharmaceutical guidelines.
If we continue in the manner in which we are behaving as a people and as a nation, these figures would keep rising.
Our data is showing the majority of the cases recorded are between the ages of 21 to 50, and this poses a lot of risk to the elderly.
Despite crossing the 1 million mark for testing, the PTF says there's more work to be done.
We're still grossly under-testing, and this is reflected, of course, in the number of persons we are getting going into the hospitals versus what we actually have on the ground. I think there's a lot of transmission going on in the communities.
Top government officials will lead the advocacy for COVID-19 vaccination.
I would like to see a situation where Mr. President, the Vice President, the SGF, critical leaders come and take the vaccine in the full glare of the public to demonstrate that this vaccine is safe.
As COVID-19 cases get critical nationwide, the federal government has made provision for 10-bed intensive care units to be established across the 36 states and the FCT. In Abuja, Mitaire Ikben, NTA News.
The second waves of the COVID-19 pandemic has raised concerns over the negligent attitude of Nigerians over the pandemic. With the world working towards reliable vaccines, the need for the people to obey the reimposed guidelines and protocols have come to the front burner. Against this backdrop, Austin Edemodo examines the dangers of flouting the guidelines and the prospect of a local vaccine against the pandemic.
Around the globe, the COVID-19 pandemic is once again spreading like wildfire as the second wave of the pandemic hits countries of Europe and America, in most cases resulting in high rate of fatalities, while total or partial lockdown has been reimposed. In Nigeria, the number of infected persons has risen to more than 94,369, with the highest number of 1,664 new cases on a single day since the second wave. Despite the reimposition of the COVID-19 guidelines and protocols in Nigeria, most Nigerians seem to be adamant of the obvious risk of flouting the directives.
With this kind of crowd behind me, it sends a wrong signal on the attitude of Nigerians towards averting the escalation of the COVID-19 pandemic.
We felt the COVID-19 has gone naturally the way it came, so everybody's living their normal life.
Most infectious diseases, epidemics that come like this, pandemics, most times you have a second wave. Because when the first one would have gone down, people will relax. We've been locked down. It's like letting a bird out of the cage. So people throw caution to the wind and all those preventive measures.
As at the time of this report, 2 persons have been placed on isolation, with 1 new death as authorities reopen isolation centers across Delta State.
In Delta State, is a gradual increase in the number. We have commenced testing. We can do testing in the hospital now. And so we're able to make our diagnosis quickly and intervene when we need to. The advice to Nigerians is for them to take precaution because there is a resurgence.
Medical experts are already ringing the alarm bell over the negligent attitude of Nigerians towards the pandemic.
For something to be free, come and test, and people were running away, saying no, we don't want to test. They have another, that the people that came, the agents that were sent by the government, they had another ulterior motive, and I was actually disappointed. So I think we need to do a lot of reorientation.
Countries all over the world and the World Health Organization are gradually churning out vaccines, and more than 33 million doses in 33 countries have been administered.
As scientists can do something, we can do something. The gene sequencing and all that, we did our own locally here, so we can do something as regards the vaccine, but we need to encourage scientists.
As the scramble for the trials and administration of the COVID-19 vaccines takes center stage in some countries of the world, there are suggestions that Nigeria must rise up to the challenge of providing the vaccines to over 206 million of her population, as Stitching Time saves 9. I'm Austin Edemodu, NTA News.
Now, as the COVID-19 pandemic rages around the globe, did you ever think that a piece of cloth over your mouth and nose will someday be a life-saving tool for humans, which today is largely referred to as the new normal? Cecilia Julius in this report seeks reasons why some people disregard the use of the face mask in spite of a potency to stem the transmission of a virus.
At the pronouncement of a second wave of the coronavirus pandemic in the nation by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, shockwaves greeted the people, which called for more proactive measures to curtail its spread. While some people were nonchalant about precautionary measures, others view the transmission of the virus serious and are making sure that the disease is kept at bay. One item used to stem the spread of the pandemic and stay healthy is the face mask. But is the face mask effectively fighting this transmission?
The importance of a face mask cannot be overemphasized, especially when you're in an area where it's a little bit crowded or in public places. You must use a face mask.
In spite of government's calls and spread of information on the use of the face mask to fight the pandemic, why are people still adamant?
People find it easy to believe falsehood because falsehoods tend to be convenient. So when you believe that COVID-19 is not there, then you don't have to wear a face mask. You don't have to do what seemingly feels inconveniencing to them. And therefore, if anybody sells something to you that, oh, this is false, it becomes easier for you to believe.
As shocking as this may sound, some people say they are not comfortable wearing the face mask. Why?
How do we comply with empty stomach? By putting on this thing. This thing holds the feet. You cannot even breathe well when you put it on. What do we gain?
Meanwhile, some people had this to say concerning adherence to these measures.
Where I know that I sit with a lot of people that we are not spread as it is, I will use it.
If every individual we adhere to the putting on the face mask, it will protect us a lot.
I need to protect myself from it because it's very, very important.
Experts say obeying preventive safety protocols for one is safety for all. In Calabar, Cecilia Julius, NTA News.
Safety for all, indeed, Cecilia. Thanks a lot. Now, hospitals across the country have continued to benefit from increased oxygen supply from the Nigerian Air Force as a critical requirement for the treatment of COVID-19 patients. Defense correspondent Najatu Tijani reports that a consignment has been delivered to the university's teaching hospital, Gwagwalada FCT.
Offloading the precious cargo from the NAF 917 aircraft, officials from the University Teaching Hospital Gwagwalada say they are eager to return to patients in critical care. Now that the country is in the grip of the second wave of the infection, there is increased demand for the gas.
Since we've been receiving this oxygen, it has helped a lot in keeping so many patients alive. And because of the pressure and the influx of these COVID patients in the center, before we were like 65% operating, but now with the support of the Nigerian Air Force, we have almost reached the optimal level of 100%.
With a capacity of producing 1,000 liters of liquid oxygen every 8 hours, the Nigerian Air Force says the amount is in excess of its air and medical requirements.
Oxygen is paramount in the management. So we realize many hospitals are battling with oxygen. So the Chief of the Air Staff decided to support hospitals with free oxygen.
And with countries like the UK celebrating the testing of a vaccine, it is yet to reach the shores of Africa. And that is why the distribution of these oxygen cylinders is a critical step in managing the disease. In addition to airlift missions, the Chief of the Air Staff says the Nigerian Air Force will sustain the free provision of liquid oxygen as part of boosting civil-military relations and supporting federal government efforts at combating the pandemic. Najatu Tijani, NTA News.
The news at 10 is reaching you on NTA News 24. Still ahead.
Drive in the rain?
It depends on the velocity of the rain.